I remember one time, like literally before our last show, we were just jamming in the practice room. I looked up and I was like, everybody's in the room is black. Oh, it's sick. Like normally I'm used to like me being the only black guy, or at least like me and I had a band prior to this, and it was just him and I. But it's cool to just have an all black band. It's really sick.
Okay, ready to rock.
Whoa.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. I am very, very excited to be sitting down with the king, Braxton. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's really sick. I'm stoked.
Oh, of course. And I'm just admiring your background as far as all the different posters and things like that.
It's a lot going on. It's a lot going
on. So Braxton, before we jump headfirst into the episode, can you kind of give me a formal intro of your name, where you're based, and what bands I guess you're a part of?
My name is Braxton Marcellous. I'm based in the Inland Empire. It's like Southern California. I'm in like a lot of bands. But yeah, the ones that are like super active as it stands now is Wise, BUNDY, ZULU. There's like a whole bunch of other projects I'm starting up. I was doing stuff for Resonate back in like March, but that's on hiatus obviously because COVID and whatnot. But yeah, I'm in a lot of bands, like a whole lot.
Yeah. I think when we first got connected, I'm like, wait, how many bands are you actually in?
Yeah, it's like I want to say like 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It reminds me of my bass player Sean. He has so many projects that are like some kind of like are inactive for a period while others are active, and then it always kind of switches. But as far as being in the band, it's it's definitely up there.
It's fun, but it's stressful. But I mean, like, it's like I thrive when I'm stressed out.
yeah. I feel you on that. Cool. Well, Braxton, I always like to get a little bit of context on how people got into music, whether hardcore or whatever genre they're specialized in. So can you kind of give me the origin story of how you first started playing guitar, some of those formative years, formative albums, first bands you were checking out when you were a kid?
It started when I was younger. I used to pretty much listen to like Radio Disney and like just like pop, this bubblegum pop, like Justin Timberlake or NSYNC, whatever.
Sure.
And then as I got a little bit older, I was like, yo, this is not it. Like I'm not really, it didn't resonate with me. And I grew up in like Gardena area in LA. It's like LA County. And I was exposed to like a lot of different stuff, and my dad was like, "Yo, I want you to be exposed to what I want you to be exposed to," So he showed me like Hendrix, like Hendrix, this jazz artist Pat Metheny, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Santana, like the Stones, just a lot of like stuff like that. And I remember from my early age, Stevie Ray Vaughan and Hendrix like stuck with me. Like, yo, this stuff is really sick. Like I love Stevie Ray Vaughan and Hendrix. Like I'm pretty sure you can see like back there's like the Hendrix black light poster with no black light, but yeah, I just love stuff like that, like really guitar oriented music. And then as I got older, my dad sat me down. He's like, yo, I know you're getting older. Don't listen to Marilyn Manson. Don't listen to Judas Priest. Don't listen to Ozzy Osbourne. He's like, it's bad. It's the devil, blah, blah, blah. And of course, being like 10 or 11, I'm like, yo, like that's sick. I got to listen to it. My dad doesn't want me to. So checked out Ozzy, checked out like Marilyn Manson, and like the Mechanical Animals album cover of Marilyn Manson. Mm-hmm. I saw it in Hot Topic as a kid, and I was like, "Yo, like what?" I was like, "What is this?" I was like, "Yo, this is crazy." And my mom's like, "Yo, don't look at that." And
there's just something about parents being like, "Don't do this," and then in your brain you're like, "So I'm gonna do this," and it's just backwards.
And that's what happened. Like I had this affinity for just like 80s shock rock and like 80s glam and like punk and stuff. And that's why I was like throughout middle school and the early days of high school. I just loved just like VH1 Classic and a lot of just glam and like thrash and death. And yeah, it just went. It started at Hendrix, and it just went to all the thrash bands, and then pretty much when it comes to like definitive albums, it just I don't know. Like Van Halen one, the first Van Halen record, I heard it and it just blew my mind. Like, I couldn't believe it
Right.
because I didn't have a computer, so it was just I watched VH1 Classic and then found magazines and like found like liner notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and found like so liner notes. I know like who produced the Van Halen records, who where it was recorded, like what studio was at, and I remember watching VH1 Classic and hearing Eruption. I was like, "Yo, this is crazy." So I went, bought the CD, um, and yeah, there's this record. I'm trying to remember what it was called. It's Weather Report. This band Weather Report, Heavy Weather. It's just like a jazz record, and it's insane. And Rush would pick a Rush album, and it just blew my mind. I got the Rush poster.
Yeah.
Yes, to that band. Yes, blew my mind. There's a lot of albums that shaped how I think about music, how I like to structure music. Just a bunch of different thrash albums and bunch of jazz records. So many jazz records. I can't even begin. It's just a lot. It's a whole lot. It's gonna be like a 17-hour podcast interview.
Just talking about jazz and thrash. And I think thrash like overall was kind of there was a lot of like really kind of like fast thrashy stuff that like really caught on with a lot of people. And obviously there's stuff like Slipknot where it's more heavy and slower. But on the thrash side, I totally agree with you. Like I literally was recording bass for my band today, and it's like we're just trying to sound like old Metallica.
That's so sick. That's really sick. I wish there were more like thrash. I mean, there are a lot of thrash bands, but like they're like slept on. Like a lot of people sleep on it, especially within the hardcore community. It's like people sleep on like new like real like sick thrash, and it stresses me out because there's so many like I've seen so many backyard thrash and like death bands that don't get the recognition they deserve.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with Low End from Milwaukee.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Legit. I did a tour. I filled in for Drain last year on tour. It was like a U.S. tour, and we were chilling with the guys from Low End. Like I literally can't like sing their praises enough. Like they were so nice to us. Like but they're so nice to us. It was crazy.
Yeah, one of the earliest podcasts that we've ever done is with Mitch, who drums in that band, and we were just talking about thrash and just like crossover music as a whole. And he brought up a good point where like it almost is too chaotic and too thought out that it like goes over people's heads. Almost, it's not just like the dumbed down caveman two-step mosh. But no, I 100% back the aspect of more thrash bands, people going off for more thrash bands. So yeah, back that hard.
Definitely, yeah.
So when it comes to bands that you're actually involved in, you were mentioning Wise and Zulu and Shred Bundy. Can you kind of mention what you do in each of those bands and just the dynamics if someone hasn't listened to the music?
Yeah, well, Wise, I joined Wise, I want to say like February-ish 2018. And yeah, we got a record coming out soon on Triple B. It's just a lot of like New York influence. Now the records, now like the stuff, like the demos that we've been sending back and forth are just crazy. Like it's some other stuff. It's just like, I'm really stoked to see how that's going to turn out. Like people are going to mess with it. Zulu, literally, like I don't want to spill too many beans, but like literally, like Anaya sent me some stuff. And I was like, "Yo, this is like ungodly." Like it's. I remember I sent him like 2 riffs for like the first thing we did, and then he came back with just this like all types of crazy stuff. So now it's just like he's definitely got some crazy stuff cooking. Like we're like bouncing ideas off of each other in the group chat. So New Zulu is gonna be nuts. Like that's gonna be like crazy.
Very, very excited for that person. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, like people have been like wondering like what we were gonna do. Obviously, tumultuous times is like what band better to like make a statement than Zulu. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And Shred, yeah, we just recorded like a full EP with Brad from this band Reclaim. I think you may know Reclaim.
I'm I'm Scoped and Reclaim, I think, are like best buddies because they came up here to play Wild Rose,
Yeah,
and
Wild
they
Rose. Yeah.
yeah they
I was so
can't
stoked for them. I
say
was so happy for them.
enough things about that band as far as being hardworking, super down to earth, super just like they were helping like shit at the fest, like moving gear and just making sure things were running. And they all picked up Scope shirts, so Can't Sing reclaims praises enough. Shout out to those guys.
I love them because like they put on for like their area because like I don't know, there's like some type of politics when it comes to this like, oh, what area you're from,
Right.
and it's just like there's San Bernardino County in SoCal. I'm Riverside County. It's all clumped in as like the Inland Empire technically.
Yeah.
So like if there's a band in like my general area, I mean, they're like an hour from me, but if there's like a band in my general area that's like putting on, like I gotta respect it. And like, and those guys are so cool. Like they've done a lot.
Yeah.
But he hooked it up for us. He recorded our EP, and there's this record label in LA called Slam Records, and they hooked this up. Like they're really sick. So we're gonna have full shred EP coming like maybe August. I personally I want to wait till like it's at the right time to like put stuff out. I feel like right now is not really the right time to put stuff out, but
yeah,
we're waiting on it. But yeah, pretty much everything that's gonna come out from like a lot of my projects are like set in stone. We're just waiting to like, you know, get everything squared away.
Yeah, it was almost like people realizing kind of amidst COVID that's like, oh, right now is actually a really good time to record and release music because everyone's at home and they need something to do or listen to. But yeah, I agree that the timing of, you know, being sensitive to what's happening in the world with Black Lives Matter and stuff, it's like you don't want to take away from that, but you don't know how long it's gonna be going on for. So it's a gamble for sure. And in all those three bands that you mentioned, you're playing guitar in all of them?
Yeah, I'm a lead guitar in Wise. I would just say second guitar in Zulu. We don't really have leads like that. At first I was the only guitarist, and we got Dez in. Dez is like the coolest guy ever, by the way. But now we're just two beefy, there's like C standard, just crazy guitarists. And Shred is just like one guitarist. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's pretty much I just do leads and rhythm for Shred.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
Yeah, and I know that we jumped into some of the background around you getting just into music, but can we jump into just like you playing guitar? Like what was the reason or the why for you to pick up a six string and start learning those riffs that you were listening to?
My dad had, it was like this like red Strat. He had it around the house forever. I just looked at it like, you know, I was a kid, so I just hit all the strings and see how it makes noise. Like, it's cool. Yeah, like, you know.
I've been very guilty of that myself.
Yeah. And as I got older, I remember he had this like orange, like Yamaha Les Paul looking type thing. And I have it, it's somewhere around here. And he had it and he would play it and it was cool. When I say around like 8th grade to high school, I had it and it was in like drop D.
Oh, okay.
And I was just doing like the, you know, like when you're like 12, 13, like, you know, just because the cool
open
riffs,
3-1, open 3 or whatever it is.
Yeah. I couldn't, I was like, yo, this is so sick, you know. And then he took it, I broke a string, I panicked, I thought I broke it. My dad's like, oh no, I can restring it. He restrung it and like put it in standard. And then I was like, wow, like this is sick, you know. So then I that's around the time I got the first Van Halen record, put it on, and I was like, yo, all I want to do is learn Hendrix, learn Stevie Ray Vaughan, learn Eddie Van Halen, because I couldn't read music, so it was just like, yo, this Eruption sounds crazy, let me see if I learn how to play it, you know, like right. Texas Flood by Stevie Ray Vaughan sounds crazy, let me play it. The whole Hendrix catalog is nuts, let me see if I can play it. But it was just like spending hours in my room just playing guitar. Then I got a bass. I learned how to play bass, just like Chili Peppers, Rush, Les Claypool, and Primus stuff. Like Larry Graham and just like Bootsy Collins, all types of this stuff.
Did you ever listen to records and you were like, how do I make this noise? And it's like, when you're so little, it's like, that's a pick slide or whatever it is. But you're like, how do I do that over here? But
for the longest time, I remember I was at Guitar Center with my dad and I didn't know what distortion was. Like it didn't click to me.
Right.
So there was like, you know, like the line 6 with just like the insane setting.
The Spider.
I had one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I literally, it's right over there. I still have it. I still jam with it whenever. But I I hit something and it was just like so crazy sounding. I was like, oh, that's distortion.
Yeah.
And that was back when I was younger before I even started playing guitar. I just didn't think that there was like any like rhyme or reason to it sounding different. I didn't have that level of thought, like complexity yet when it comes to music. So I was just like, okay, you just play and it makes a certain noise. But as I got older, I realized that obviously, you have pedals and whatnot.
Yeah. The further you get into it, you were like, oh, there's distortion, but there's also overdrives and tube screamers and line drivers and all this crazy stuff. Yeah. People can get really. Are you like a gearhead yourself? Or are you kind of like bare bones, like to keep it really simple?
It's like an ongoing like joke at this point. Like I have like a I would be like, hey dude, I don't want to be that guy, but can I borrow your blah 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 blah? Like every show, like now my homie Lauren, they hooked it up. I got like a good cab I can use now, a good like head I can use now. I have some stuff I could use, but it's tube and it's heavy and it's hard to transport. But really all I've been using was just like a Digitech like multi effects pedal.
Right.
And it has a tuner and then there's 1,000 settings. I just use one setting and the tuner.
Yeah.
And plug it in. And, hopefully I'm mic'd. Hopefully it's this. But now like during quarantine, I dusted off a lot of my old pedals I used to use. I'm looking at them right now. Like my dad had some 80s like overdrive pedals and like a 80s, 90s wah, like a crybaby wah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And yeah, so now I'm definitely gonna try to come out of quarantine with like an actual rig, like gear set up finally after all these years.
Yeah. I used to work at a music store, so I got like super in depth with like trying all these different pedals and mix and matching different things. And over time, I was like, you know what, like I need a good I need a good amp. I need a tuner and maybe a suppressor, and that's everything else is fluff at this point.
And for like the longest time.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What do you think?
Oh, I was just going to say, like, the more that I've played music or even just things in life, it's like, it's not the gear that makes the musician. It's, the musician that makes the music. Like if Nails can essentially their entire band focuses around one pedal, then, there's no rules when it comes to gear for sure.
I took that and ran with it. Like that idea, I was like, yo, like it doesn't matter what you, I remember I'm not really a fan of Ted Nugent, like the person as I was like a person, but I remember I saw this documentary and he was like, the first time he saw Van Halen, his mind was blown. He's like, you know what? I have to play through his rig so I can sound like him because there's no way Eddie Van Halen is playing that as like a human being with, and he played it and it sounded like Ted Nugent through Eddie's gear, It's like, it doesn't matter. It's the musician, but I remember for the longest time I was just like, playing like tuning by ear and stuff. Everyone was flaming like, dude, why are you doing that? And to this day, still like, I don't know. I've been with music for so long. I feel like I could kind of pick up like, okay, if it's in tune or not. But if it's not, I'm not too like, arrogant to use it. Like I use a tuner. It's just like now for me, I'm just like, I'm like simplistic. I just plug in and like play. And now I realize sometimes it's a detriment to like how I look at a musician. But I mean, the stats don't lie.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you're in like a gent or a metal band where it's like, it's so finely like making sure all your, breaks are like nothing. There's no signal. Like maybe that's one thing, but when it comes to like hardcore or even just loud, aggressive music in general, like it's kind of like I'm not going to get tripped up on that when a band's playing loud. I'm like, oh, there was some feedback there. Like, right.
Yeah.
So to transition back, you were mentioning, playing in ZULU is one of your, I guess, more full-time things. And one of the very first podcasts I did kind of around the theme of Black Lives Matter and kind of talking about this was with Anaya. And we talked about that band, and something that I didn't think about until after we had finished the episode was if because he plays in a number of other bands like Dare and Culture Abuse. And I was curious if, and maybe you can answer this, if there's a different mindset or a different vibe when it's a band that's filled with just Black musicians versus just being the only guy in the room of that skin color. What is kind of like, is that, am I right in thinking that it is different? Because, you know, there's a variety of like straight edge bands or vegan bands, but then those members
Yeah.
play in just regular hardcore bands as well.
My thing is like it's so refreshing to see like representation. Uh I remember I remember our first show, it was like it was such a lineup, dude. It was like Drain and just like it was all homies, you know, like you played it and it was definitely the crowd of just like the headliners, you know. It was a lot of like people that weren't really necessarily there for us. I remember we played at Program, which is like a venue down like Orange County, and I saw so many black kids, and obviously like I've seen black people before, but it's like, you know, it's just like it was at like a hardcore show, and they were like singing the lyrics, and I was like, yo, representation means like the world to me, and it was just so crazy. I remember I filled in for Drain in Baltimore, and somebody came out to me and he said, representation means the world, and they hugged me. And I was like, yo, I'm not even in Drain, I'm just filling in. But just the fact that, you know, this person saw a black person playing hardcore, it spoke to them. I was like, yo, that's cool. So I was just like, being in an all black band is really rewarding. I remember I was talking to Anaya initially about the project, and he was like, he told me like, yo, I got an idea for this all black like PV band. Obviously, you're the first person I'm gonna hit up, and then after that, we looked around for members, and we talked about it for a minute. Like we went through different lineups, and we just bounced ideas off of each other for months. And then once we got it squared away, we were like, I asked him, do you think people are gonna mess with it? And he was like, I know they will. And I was like, I really hope they do, you know. But looking back, it's like I'm really grateful because being in like a practice space and everyone can relate to what I go through is like really. And there's another thing in the black community, like being like quote unquote alt or whatever, being alternative, being an alternative black person is something that Anaya and Dez and Zane can like understand. You know, Zane's our bassist, the Dez is our guitarist. It's like they get, you know, growing up and hearing people say, "Oh, you're too white," or "You're too, why are you wearing skinny jeans," or "Why you have a Slayer shirt," or whatever. Stuff I've heard, I've had like rocks thrown at me and this stuff like for years. You know, never really felt as if I fit in. And now it's like, oh, I have an all black band, and we all, you know, fit in. And I don't know, I think that really translates to like people listening to us and appreciating it. Like it's not for just some marketing ploy, you know, it's just like we are black people that want to show that black people can make music and we want to make music together.
Yeah.
So it's really rewarding to. I remember one time, like literally before our last show, we were just jamming in the practice room. I looked up and I was like, everybody's in the room is black. Like it was always sick. Like normally I'm used to like me being the only black guy, or at least like me and I had a band prior to this, and it was just him and I. But it's cool to just have an all black band. It's really sick. It means the world.
Yeah, and kind of you brought up a great point that I actually wanted to get to, but I want to make sure that we can really hit on this. But I think there's a number of bands that have, you know, one or two members that are of color, whether they're, you know, mix or all black or whatever it is. And like, I think that's the first step of being like, oh yeah, that's really cool that bass player, that drummer, or the vocalist or whatever it is. But when you see it as a full and it's in like unison and the focus is there, like I think that's the next step. And I hope that there's, you know, there's I'm hoping that we eventually get to a point where, you know, the being white is kind of the minority in hardcore. Because you know, shout out to Easy Money, like the majority of that band is, you know, of color, and I think it's just Troy who's white. But no, I definitely I have seen a lot of people jump to, oh well, there's a lot of diversity in hardcore, and you know, we're ahead of the curve when it comes to these other genres of music. But you know, like I've put people on the spot as far as like recommending bands and with black musicians, and some people have been have struggled to like just list, you know, 4 or 5 names off the top of their head.
Yeah. Everyone, when I first started going to hardcore shows, I was like thrasher kid, you know, just like Slayer crop tops and whatever, and people were looking at me just like, oh, who's this dude, whatever. And it was like people threw around this word inclusive, inclusive, inclusive. I first started going to shows, it really wasn't like that.
Mm.
Like all I saw like out here was just like Anaya. It was like the only, and like I saw other black people at shows, but I didn't really see that many. And I don't know, it's just cool to see where it is now. You know, a lot of people are going to hardcore shows and like power violence and grind, and it's just the old guard of just like, oh, why are you listening to that for?
Mm-hmm.
I still see it because I live in a super like conservative area, but I go to LA or I go to OC and SD, it's like San Diego, and I don't really see that. Like it's the old guard of just what we're supposed to listen to or how we're supposed to act.
Mm-hmm.
Is slowly but surely. I mean, it's very slow, but it's slowly but surely like
Yeah.
easing out. You know, especially now, like this super tumultuous time in our history, and now like more time than now, definitely, it's definitely easing its way out. Like, okay, we're getting rid of that like archaic way of thinking about what you're supposed to do, what you should do. So
Yeah.
it's really satisfying to see.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And then I was saying, like, even him just going to shows when he was younger, like his mom would just be like, "Are you sure? Like, you're going to the show with all white people?" Like, you know, she was almost assuming the worst, that something bad was going to happen to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that with more bands, promoters, you know, people who are taking photos, you know, when people see that and they see, like, you know, I've seen a lot of, you know, people being not exposed, but playing the card of like, well, I don't see race. But then people are like, well, you actually need to understand that there are differences between you and I, for sure.
Yeah. That's a cop out. I don't. Oh, we're all one race. We're all one like human race. Like, nah, that's corny to me. Honestly, like a lot of people come up to me and say, "Yeah, dude, like I don't see color. We're all the same. We're all one." I'm like, bro, come on now,
Yeah.
like don't like miss me with that. Honestly,
Yeah, because you need to see it so you can understand, like,
understand. Yeah,
how oppression works. When it, like, just look at the stats. If you look at the stats and everything's one color, then you're like confused. But then when you actually see the color, you're like, oh, I understand now.
You understand how?
Yeah. You were mentioning a little bit earlier, just as far as like, you know, not being black enough. You know, wearing certain clothes and listening to certain music. And I saw a clip on your Instagram where you're talking about like whitewashing and how that term has kind of been misconstrued or misused in many senses. So can you kind of unpack, I guess, like that clip that you were sharing and what you were what you were trying to get at?
Yeah, my homie Gracie, he gave me the opportunity to like just talk about what I went through in punk and hardcore and metal, and he was just like, "Yo, like whatever you want to say, just say it because people need to hear it." And I'm grateful for him letting me do that because like it was therapeutic. I got to finally get it out. It's been on me, and it's almost to a point I was repressing it because I was like, I don't want to talk about it. But now I finally got to get it out.
Right.
It's really therapeutic. It's just that like I've taken art history and I've seen what like literal whitewashing is. Like it's, you know, these Renaissance artists like painting Jesus and all the whatever in the image of the current favorable, you know, European image. And for years after that, people to this day, you go to church and you see this like blonde surfer Jesus, and I'm like, bro, that's not what it is, you know. So like,
surfs up.
Like, yeah, it's like, bro, like, right. So I see whitewashing how detrimental it has been to pop culture and just society as a whole. So when I go to a show and I got short shorts and a Van Halen like crop top and my Van Halen like logo necklace, I don't want people to think, oh, you're whitewashed. It's like, bro, I'm not. Like, you know, it's just, I don't know. I can talk about it forever. It's like, I see a lot of infographics going around now about how rock was invented by black people and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, like we've been known, you know, but I'm glad like some people are just like, what? You know, some people are kind of like blown away from it. And what we do is rock music, you know, like power violence is a branch of a tree that started that was rock. You know, hardcore is a branch of a tree that started that was rock. So I feel like along the way, the actual whitewashing kind of happens, you know? And so if there's a any person of color, any black person, more specifically, uh, likes, rock or whatever, people are just gonna automatically assume because the genre was whitewashed. Oh yeah, you're a white boy. You're da da da. And I've heard crazy stuff in high school. Like I've heard this is like before like people were more conscious, like socially conscious and more aware and more PC about things.
Sure.
But the things I've heard, it was just, bro, it was just like, it's laughable. I'm like, yo, how do you guys think about this stuff? Like, I've heard crazy, insane stuff. Even to be honest, like, it was last year. I booked like a death metal show in LA. And this, like, it was around the time Nipsey Hussle passed away.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I might have been the same weekend, but I remember his funeral was, or his like public viewing or wherever it was like in the Staples Center, which was like a mile or two away from the venue that I booked the show at. And somebody walks in like drunk, like, what are you doing here? N-word, blah, blah, blah. You're supposed to like, you're supposed to be at the Nipsey Hussle thing. Da, da, da. And I was like, what are you doing here, bro? I booked the show. Like I can like get you to dip if need be. And they dipped out. And I laughed, but I was just like, it's not like, I was thinking like, yo, it's not gonna change because I was dealing through this. I would see all these like street punk bands, like back in the day, I was in high school, all these like ska-core bands, and I would hear all this crazy vulgar stuff. I was like, maybe when I'm finally like older and I'm a musician, I can do my own things, it'd be different. And here it was 20, I want to say 19. I'm booking a death metal show and I'm proud of myself. And there's people still saying, oh, what are you doing here? When I'm at the door, like I was the only dude in that whole vicinity getting paid, and there's still people coming up to me like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" So it's nuts. Like the whole term. Now I'm desensitized to it because I've they always say like sticks and stones break my whatever, but literally actually having literal sticks and stones thrown at me, like being actually like physically harmed, physically attacked at shows, at school, about how I act, how I am. Mm-hmm. It's just people can say whatever, and I just laugh about it. Like people even say now, like I see super problematic things, I start laughing because it's just like, bro, like I'm just so I know it's a diversion tactic. I know it's not healthy, but I'm so used to this ridiculous stuff happening to me for being black in punk, black in metal, black in hardcore.
Right. To
the point that like not much really phases me, like to be honest.
Yeah.
I know that's really bad, like I said, but I don't know. It's definitely now I feel like people's eyes are opening, at least within the spaces that I'm catering to. I definitely see that it's finally like realistically inclusive. It used to not like be like that. Like people used to just say it, oh, inclusive. And okay, well that word's here, so I understand. I would see like safe space venues, and there's some stuff I've seen at safe space venues which is just not safe whatsoever, like right. Crazy stuff. I can't even get into that, but it's just like now it's just like the idea of, oh, we're inclusive, oh, we're intersectional is now really becoming a thing. Mm-hmm. Because people are seeing like people are now seeing what we've been seeing, what I've been seeing for years. Now they're starting to see it because it's like all over everybody's stories and all over the timeline. Now they're starting to see it. Mm-hmm. So now I'm just like, now it's almost a bit of a sensory overload seeing a lot of it, because like I'm face to face with my mortality every day, having to click the like sensitive viewing thing on Instagram and seeing somebody bloody in the street. I'm like, bro, like, like it's sensory overload. It's a lot. And I guess I'm face to face with like, I can be a hashtag literally tomorrow, which is a crazy thought, but there's nothing stopping it from happening. I can go, especially living in like a super conservative area, like I mentioned, I can walk outside, God forbid, anything can happen.
Yeah.
So it's like putting that into perspective, people now see, okay, now I understand what's going on. Mm. And I've had people reach out to me like, yo, I'm sorry, da, da, da. I don't necessarily want like sorries and hugs and kisses. I just want people to like, if it makes you feel bad, then go do something about it. Like I'm posting links, posting, funds and whatnot to donate to relief funds and like go march and go do whatever, because it's slowly but surely, like I said, I can't emphasize enough. It's very slow, but like slowly but surely, it's like I see a lot of change, and it's actually. I remember I want to like ramble, but my dad
All good.
told me. My dad told me, he was like, I used to think, millennials and blah blah blah, but he told me, he's like, your generation is actually doing something.
Right.
And to me, I was like, okay, cool, But then I came back in here, and I was like, wow, that was actually like a profound thing that my dad told me, that his generation, he's born in like 57, so like he can see now, okay, like this generation that my son is a part of is actually like actively trying to change. It's really satisfying to see that.
Yeah, and I think like we as humans have a really bad understanding of time. Like lots of people are just like, oh, I have to have everything in my life figured out by the time I'm 30, but not realizing that you could live another like 2 more lifetimes of that, like till you're 90. So, I definitely can empathize with people be like demanding change and wanting change right away, but it is slowly but surely. And I was listening to a podcast today where they were just talking about how change happens not in big institutions. It doesn't happen with, just like the system being like, it's been a while since we've, mixed things up, and then they do something on the inside. It's like the pressure from the outside, and keeping that on, and then they're like forced to change because they're like, well, like we need to do this because nothing is moving forward on their agenda because it's being suppressed by the people. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely think that, even just like people, realizing that like Jim Crow laws were like, I think that was like 60 years ago. So that's like not even,
my dad's lifetime, like literally
100. Yeah, 100%.
It's crazy.
So, this isn't something that's like, oh, that's the distant past. That's like those things that happened 60 years ago still have impact today. Like obviously things get outdated with technology and things like that. But even like I've said this multiple times, but even 10 years ago, if we were in the same situation, if we didn't have the internet being at the scale that it is, it might not, the change that we're seeing kind of coming around the bend might not be possible, because things like Instagram or Facebook or just like being able to share things at large wouldn't be a reality.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting time. I mean, like I said, essentially overload. I am seeing a lot. I'm almost seeing too much of like the gory images and like the super violent images, but there's a lot that's being shared that's showing people, okay, yeah, this is like a serious situation that's been it didn't start with George Floyd. It didn't start with Ferguson. Like, it didn't just materialize overnight. Like, it's been going on for just, I can't even put in the words. It's been going on forever. Yeah. So it's like, I'm glad people are starting to really understand, like, this is a serious, pressing issue that we need to like at least try to change.
Yeah. Maybe a quick question, since we're kind of on the topic. Like when I interviewed Brianna from Bugging Out, they were talking about how that's
the homie.
Yeah.
That's the homie.
Super great conversation with them. But we were just talking about how there are certain, I guess, like, I think intent really matters with whatever it is in life. So there are people that are like trying to help either push the conversation forward. Like that's a big goal for me with some of these podcast episodes. But, they were talking about how me doing Black musicians in hardcore playlist is a little bit more appropriate than maybe like Alternative Press doing this big write-up blog post and doing this.
I saw that
thing. Yeah. So I'm curious on your thoughts on that, as far as like, does it become too much where it's like, like we appreciate the little bit of a spotlight you're giving, but we just want to be, we want to be on the same playing field as everyone else. We don't want like special treatment or anything.
I remember my homie Jeff, he was actually in Bloodbather at one point, and then they put his face big as day, blood bather, and you're just like, bro, I'm not in the band. Like, like I'm not in the band no more. Like, just like I appreciate it, I guess, but do some research and find out I'm not in the band. So like, that's
was
cool,
that
but,
Alternative
like,
Press that put that out?
I think so. It was them or some type of like I saw it all over Facebook and Twitter and IG. I don't even remember who it was. It might have been Alternative Press, right. But I don't know. It's just like I saw this thing going around. It was like these government officials with like African print, like dashiki-esque looking print, kneeling down, like praying, and it said it was the Black Panther Party as like a joke. Like, and that killed me because it's like the Black Panthers. It was so funny because like I see a lot of pandering, a whole lot of pandering, and I saw this meme. As you can see, I love memes, but I saw this meme. It was like a bunch of like white girl like face emojis, and then like a black square, and then like black girl face emojis.
Oh, interesting.
And then it's just like, now people post a bunch of selfies square.
And then like the black post to be like, I'm in solidarity. Yeah,
I love black people. Like, look, and I appreciate it, but sometimes it's detrimental to the movement. It's like, I don't know. I can go on forever, but it's like I just feel as if like that meme is a lot of pandering. There's a lot of pandering. Some people maybe have racist parents and they want to prove, hey, I'm not racist, or so they may have like a black fetish back in the day, and they're coming to grips with it, and now they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to fetishize or whatever. I see a lot of maybe reasons for it, but I don't know. You can have good intentions and they can still come off not so good, and I know some people may have pure intentions, but sometimes it's definitely a lot of like pandering, and it just feels forced. It definitely feels like, I remember a few years ago, I would see all these corporations for Pride Month that have the rainbows, and then the like 12 a.m. the second the Pride Month is over.
Change is over.
Yeah. So it's like now it's just everything's like the color black for however long June's going, or how it was for Black History Month. Everything like dashiki print or like black, or just like Wakanda Forever or all this crap. I'm like, bro, like stand in solidarity from January to December, not just like whenever there's a movement and you want to show that you don't want to lose customers, because it's all capitalism at the day. Everyone's just trying to show, invest money into us because we care about Black people. It's like, bro, where were you guys when George Floyd was with his family and chilling? Like, where were you guys when this wasn't such a pressing issue where you can't escape it? Like, where were you then? So I see a lot of people this on some cornballery was a term I used to always use.
Cornballery. I love that term. I'm gonna be using that for the very first show I'm back to, and something sketches happening. I'm like, oh, there's some cornballery going on.
Yeah, it's just I see it all the time, but I mean, it's pure intentions.
Yeah,
it's just not really looking the best, and it can be misconstrued easily as not so pure.
Do you think that if because I would almost if I'm gonna stereotype, I would almost think a lot of those ideas that like certain people are making, maybe they aren't Black, or they don't have anyone on their team that's making those decisions. So do you think running that by someone, just like, hey, this is what I'm doing, like this is what I want to, this is my intent, and then someone would be like, I can see that, but like maybe you should change the wording, or like actually this whole idea sucks and maybe you should start over. Do you think seeking counsel from someone who's actually like of that race when it comes to, if you're trying to talk about that, is important?
I know like we a lot of my homies, like we like to roast and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like if I see like a black square, it's like a lot of people are roasting it, a lot of Black people are roasting, like, yo, what is this gonna do? But it was pretty much like across the board, everyone woke up and realized, okay, like we need to at least change the hashtag, or do more than post a black square. So, I mean, there's always gonna be memes making fun of people for doing whatever they got to do. I'm still gonna have homies saying, "Oh, that's all she did was donate, whatever." But it's like, I definitely feel as if asked, we should definitely, reach out. If I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna go out of my way and be like, hey, you're doing that wrong. Like, I got a lot. I literally have a lot more going on. Like the movement is about me and like my mom and my dad and my, so it's like my goal is like I'm not worried about your like black square. I'm worried about like literally like my black life, my black existence. Mm-hmm. But if someone were to hit the DMs like, yo, man, like I what like literally the other day my homie was like, yo, what ways, like what else can I do? He asked me like, yo, what can I donate to? And my homegirl Raquel, she made like a Google Doc of just all these like links to donate to and links to and like petitions. I sent that to him. He sent that to all of his homies. So like, I don't know. It just, if you feel as if you're not doing something right, everyone can grow. Everyone can unlearn things. Unlearning is definitely essential to growth, especially in these times. So anyone that feels like they need to unlearn something that they're doing, just feel free to like, yo, like, what can I do to help out?
Yeah,
because I'm definitely not gonna seek people to help. Like that's not, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. And a big thing that I've realized, especially at the very start of this, is like, don't be lazy. Like there's a plethora of information, resources, documentaries to actually like watch, and not just like hit up your black friends or your indigenous friends and be like, hey, like I want to be on the right side of history. Yeah.
There's Instagram, like Instagram, Twitter, Google, like, Safari, it comes with every iPhone. Like, you just click on it and type some stuff in.
Yeah. Don't overload the DMs of your colored friends because they got stuff going on for themselves. Before and after this whole movement. So Braxton, it would be wrong for us not to hit on your radio show on your podcast.
Let's go.
So please. When I was researching about you, I was like, oh, you run a radio show and you run that for a few hours. So can you, I guess, like properly introduce it? Because I'm probably butchering it as far as a proper intro.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's called the King Braxton Show. It's in San Diego based.
Okay.
It's a KKSM 1320 AM. It reaches from like San Diego to like OC, some parts of the IE. I've been doing it for a while now. Since COVID, I haven't really been able to be out in San Diego. It's like an hour for me. There are links to listen to it online. I was gonna do a weekly podcast, but I just got a lot going on. But yeah, I used to interview like local. It was pretty much local indie guys and local rappers. Like every week, talk to them, see what's on their mind. Local punk guys like every week, just in San Diego, in the North County, San Diego area, in the IE. I had some guys from OC and LA come up, and it's really been fun to give a platform, to have a platform, or I can just play whatever. Like I talk about whatever. I mean, obviously whatever within the confines of like FCC regulation, but
there's a couple rules for that.
Yeah, a little bit, but I definitely like. I play like I have like jazz back to back, and then like play like some old glam stuff, like some glam deep cuts, or just like some thrash, or just like whatever it comes to mind. I interview people and talk about social issues. Now would be a really good time to have the show back. It is I can't because the whole station is shut down because obviously COVID and whatnot. But it's fun. Yeah. Now I just been posting. There's donation links and posting about like this Saturday, my homies and I are doing like an Instagram live like type of like Black Lives Matter event.
Sure.
I've been promoting stuff like that. That's pretty much all I'm doing now that I can't physically be at the station, is just sharing people's info, just sharing stuff like that. But yeah, it's fun. I'm trying to go back whenever its regulations are up, when COVID's wiped out, or you can be there with distancing. I'm trying to go back to the station, definitely.
Yeah. And is that like your, I guess, like part-time or full-time like work gig, or is that just something you're just purely doing for fun?
I was there a lot. a whole lot. But yeah, now it's just like uh for a while I was super super focused on it, but like I said, I had to drop out a lot of things for like US tours and like little runs up and down the coast and stuff. And
Right.
it definitely, I'd be gone from the station for like a month and a half, and
And
I don't
you
know.
can't do a month of like radio silence.
Yeah, I definitely
Someone
can't. So
turns it
that,
on, they're like, what's up with this station?"
like, what's going on? But yeah, I wish I'm definitely working to have that be my like full time gig.
Yeah.
But once I don't know, everything's on pause, which sucks. But once everything comes back, definitely gonna like be more involved in it because I love it. It's really fun.
Yeah. Was there a process for you? I'm always curious because I've definitely seen, we're on, this would, I guess, be episode 42. And I definitely know, I've seen the growth of, how I can communicate, how I can host a show. How is that process with you, with like finding your like radio voice and, just finding the flow in between songs? I rarely listen to the radio here in Calgary, but I always find like some radio hosts are trying to get all these words just before like the first line of the next song, and they're like, yeah, so this is blah, blah, blah. It's just going super fast. So what's that process like for you?
It used to be stressful because I took like 2 or 3 courses prior to being actually admitted on the radio,
Yeah.
and it was just there's I don't know, I would there's time markers, so you gotta talk about your sponsors at like certain times, like top of the hour, you say, oh, you're listening to blah 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 blah, the sound of blah blah blah, and here's your host. That's like top of the hour, and then like the 20, you gotta say like at 20 minutes, like, oh, you're brought to you by blah 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 blah.
Right.
And it's hard when you have like guests. And like me, if I was on my show, I would stress, like I just be rambling and talking, as you can see. So like if I was a guest, I'd just be like,
Right.
and I'd be like, hey, like up next we got, it was really hard to learn the transition between like, okay, I don't want to be rude, but the sponsor time is coming, so we gotta, yeah,
Yeah.
so we gotta, but it took me a while, and I was sending my stuff to the general manager to see how he would critique it. And there's a lot of like people around that's been in radio forever, and a lot of them critiqued it. Oh yeah, that's cool. Like that sounds good. Maybe you should do this, do that. And now I feel like I kind of got it going, but I haven't been on since like February. But I feel like now I kind of get like the gist of like, okay, well, you're listening to blah blah blah, and that's our guest blah blah blah. Up next, you got now is a bit easier.
Yeah.
Transition.
You were mentioning that there was some thoughts when you were thinking about doing a podcast, and obviously like that's the super popular thing nowadays. Like everyone and their grandma has a podcast, or at least listens to podcasts. So like, do you think? Because I've definitely seen like a shift of like radio, like being like, oh, we're not going to do anything aside from the show. And now there's like stuff that's being put online, whether that's in audio or video form. So is there some like is there an interest for you to eventually turn some form of the radio show into like a podcast, or in due time?
Yeah, I got a lot of homies. Like my friend Christian has a podcast. It's about like he has like a setup where it's like he'll talk about he's like a fitness guy. He's super into fitness, so it's he have like here to talk to a health expert, and here just talk about stuff, and just how it's set up is interesting. And just me, like I do want to have somebody where I can just say whatever, because sometimes I would be saying stuff, and then the general manager would be like through the window, like, "Nah, don't say that." And I have to like press a censor. I mean, I don't really use like profane like language like that, really, but it's like this topics like saying crazy stuff, and I'd be super political sometimes, and they'd be like, "No, you can't really say, you can't call Trump a blah 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 on the station," So like, and I had to press a little censor, a little thing that says the ideas of this show does not express the idea of the station. Like, I had to always press that.
Right.
So I stopped talking at a certain point, but. What podcast I definitely wanted to just talk about stuff. Like I don't want it to be like necessarily like hardcore stuff. I just want to just talk about like just music, just like other like jazz and blues, or just like stuff. Just I just want to talk about like whatever, and without it being censored. So a podcast would be fun. I was gonna start doing playlists on my show, like Spotify playlists,
Yeah.
to keep people involved in the show. But I don't know. I took like a lot to brainstorm to like what I was gonna do to keep the show going. But yeah, a podcast would be really fun, really interesting.
Yeah.
I really want to get that going soonish.
Yeah, because I saw a few photos of like, I guess like your curated list of like upcoming songs. I was like, yeah, like Braxton like seems like a good like DJ as far as like, you know, getting a flow of that. And you know, playlists are always funny too, because, you know, I'll listen to the very end of the song and the beginning of the next song and figure out like, oh, do these kind of like flow together, whether it's like a fade out or it instantly stops or things like that. But half the time people shuffle it anyway, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Well, Braxton, this has been a super awesome conversation. I'm really glad that we got to jam. Is there anything that you want to send us off with, or any, you know, show stories that you want to kind of share to kind of you know, bookend this podcast?
I have so many like show stories. I literally, that have to be like a part 2 or something. Like I
just show stories. Yeah.
I've seen like some of the, like me and Cody from Dream were talking about the other day about stuff we've seen. You know, my homie like Donnie from Wise was talking about stuff that we've seen. Like my really close like brother, like the drummer for Shred Bundy, Juan. Him and I just think about like what we've seen, like this at these bar like metal shows, stuff that goes on, like it's just nuts. Like I don't know, there's so much, dude. It's crazy. So people are just crazy. Like they just say whatever comes in mind. Like I've seen a lot of like crazy stuff, but yeah, I wouldn't even know where to start with that.
Yeah. Well, highly recommend you go listen to all of Braxton's bands, ZULU, Wise, and Shred Bundy. Shred Bundy is kind of like your thrash baby. Yeah.
And then I got like this band Wig Splitter. I got like a it's a beatdown band with the homies. I got like a bunch of bands that we're trying to like get going.
Yeah.
But I wish I could name. I have like, it's like a grip. I literally.
I'll put, you know, the majority of them down below.
Okay.
Is there any handles for your personal that you want to shout out, or shout out the radio show?
Yeah, just King Braxton's Son. Just my Instagram, and then the King Braxton Show is just my show. KKSM Radio is the station. Yeah, Shred X Bundy. Yeah, ZULU and Wise don't really have social media like that. I've seen your list, bro. Yeah. It's so hard to think, but yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah, no, but that's more than enough. But like I said, I really appreciate you coming on and, you know, sharing some things. There was definitely some things that I took away from this conversation for sure. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's so sick. I really appreciate it.
Of course, my homie.